Miss Adrienne. Miss Adrienne's going to talk super smart stuff. So, you know my thing, I asked some cool stuff. Here's a shock. She just started lifting. You did? How much you bench? 750 pounds. She bench pressed last week. You good? You all right? All right, cool. Also, that thing don't like you. I wouldn't take that if I was you.
Make it not do it. Yeah.
All righty. Next, she's a fan of desserts. I asked her if she's made, has anybody been around a New Orleans bread pudding before? A New Orleans bread pudding with rum sauce. Yeah. Tell you what, if you come down, make sure you get a good bread pudding, and you make sure, if you can make it to Commander's Palace, you get the bread pudding souffle, which you have to order ahead of time. Unless you're me, then I can just walk in and take, I just say, hey, and then they show me out the back door. But make sure that you come see some of our delicious desserts. But here's the non-nerd thing she said about herself. My favorite game is Age of Vampires. What's the series?
Borderlands.
Borderland? Yeah. There they go. Yeah. Borderlands series. That's the good one?
It's the first-person shooter.
All righty. But other than that, you're going to hear some incredible, wonderful, smart people talk. Ladies and gentlemen, please bang your hands together for the awesome, amazing Miss Adrienne Tacke. Thank y'all.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you to MagnoliaJS, Richard, Kayla, everyone here that is in the room today. I'm very excited to give this talk. It's one of my favorite talks to give, just because it's a little bit more engaging. How many people here have, played Animal Crossing, any form, not just New Horizons? All right, cool. So I'm hoping you will get a lot more out of this. For those who haven't, don't worry. I'm going to explain a lot of what happens in the game and why I think it's so important and why we should really strive for it in our teams. So, because we're engineers and I didn't have a clicker, let's hope this works. So I'm on my island here. I'm shaking some trees because I need to get some resources. And one of the mechanics in the games is that you can get stung by a wasp. So they sting you. It's a terrible thing. It's really scary if you've never played this before. And that's what happens to you. You get stung, and your eye looks like this. And what I want to tell you as I started playing this, because I only played this new game, New Horizons, during the pandemic and learned a lot from it. And what I wanted to show you was, if this would work, that I'll play through, what Animal Crossing New Horizons has taught me about psychological safety. So we're going to wait for that to play because it didn't acknowledge in my click sequence. It was much funnier when this happened. So you get stung by a wasp. It's really, really scary. But a lot of the parallels between getting stung by a wasp in the game very much aligns to what psychological safety looks like on teams. And so that's what I want to talk to you today. So that's me. I'm Adrienne Braganza Tacke, who got stung by a wasp. I'm a senior developer advocate at Cisco, formerly at MongoDB. And before that, I was just a developer in the .NET space / JavaScript space. No frameworks yet, just vanilla JavaScript. What do we fear? You're getting ahead of, you should come up here and give me my talk. There are many, many things that we fear, and specifically for developers, that is one of the biggest things. In the game, there are things, very obvious things like spiders or scorpions, and those are hella scary to try to catch for the first time. I don't know if I'm going to get bitten. I don't know if I'm going to die. I don't know what to do if they're chasing you around. You think you're sneaking up on it, and then it sneaks up on you. And in the real world, that can look like actual bugs in our software, or making a mistake, or seeing something that's incorrect, making a wrong choice in our career. If you've played the game, we might fear these eggs. So there is an event every season in Animal Crossing, and one of those events is during Easter, and sometimes you just need to complete your tasks. One of those tasks is to get specific fish. And whenever this Easter season is on, when you go fishing, sometimes you get these damn eggs. And so sometimes we fear this because we can't finish our task list. Or maybe we even fear Tom Nook. This is the one that is asking you, hey, you want to upgrade your house? It's going to cost you. Hey, I need, start paying up your bills. And this could look like upper management to us. This could look like the people we don't want to let down, our bosses, maybe some of our senior coworkers. These could all have the same parallels. And for my Animal Crossing players here, it could even be Buster, right? We really, really did not like this Easter event. He just looked really, really scary. People made a big deal about Buster, and so we fear him. But in reality, even all of these things, though they are kind of scary, the biggest thing we feel, like you mentioned, is this. This is our biggest fear. We fear failure. I'm not too afraid to say it. I am afraid of breaking production. I'm afraid of pushing a mistake into prod. I'm afraid of not looking like I know what I'm talking about or knowing what I'm doing. I'm afraid that people don't take me seriously because I don't look like a developer. I fear that any failure that I make is just ammunition to say you don't belong in this field. So failure is a very, very, very big thing that we deal with in the tech community, but it is something that is valid to feel. Why do we fear it? For all the things that I mentioned, of course, we fear failure, but there are other parts to failure, why we try to avoid it, right? For some people, we just kind of say, let's do everything we can to make sure we never, ever fail, which is kind of a recipe for failure to happen. For other people, it's when failure does happen, we just kind of curl up inside, hide away from everybody, try to hide it, try to make sure nobody sees it, and try to fix it on our own. And those are all very, very valid things to feel because of the way failure makes us feel and how failure actually affects us, not just in life, but on our teams. For example, once you get stung by a wasp in Animal Crossing and you start talking to some of your villagers, you get responses like this. Whoa, 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 what's up with your face? Did you get stung by a wasp? Does it hurt? Are you okay? And when we make a mistake, let's say we had a really bad issue. For some reason, there's no guardrails in place. It actually got pushed to prod. You actually broke something. We don't want to look like this. We don't want to show our mistake in front of the world. We don't want people questioning our ability. We don't want people to say, hey, what is this thing that you did? Because we very much likely already feel bad that we've made a mistake. We have the people like the very precious Dizzy, one of my favorite villagers here, says, oh man, you surprised me. You got stung by a wasp. Yikes. So for people who we don't want to let down, that could be a really valid reason to feel failure. Or we could have someone who's as brutal as Mira and says, oh, a wasp stung you? Ha ha ha. We don't want people to laugh at us, to make us feel small, to make us feel little, and mistakes can sometimes do that. Failures kind of acknowledge and says, hey, you've done something wrong, but that's a very, very valid reason why we might fear failure. All of these things are valid reasons why failure is a normal thing to fear. But what if we look at failure in a different way? Making sure we understand that all of these feelings that we feel about failure and not wanting to consistently have failure after failure, what if we just tweak it a little bit to our advantage? One thing we can do is we can look at failure as a chance to collaborate. So as you start talking, and so Mira can redeem herself here, she kind of says, well, that's a cinch. You just got to dab a little bit of medicine on the stings. That'll fix you right up. So sometimes when we encounter failure, it allows us to talk to other people to help us solve our problems. When we run into a situation at work or we come across a bug that we haven't seen before, most likely, and I know I did this a lot when I was a junior developer and even sometimes now, but I would try to do as much as I can to fix it on my own and not ask for help. I do as much as I can to fix it before even admitting to somebody that I couldn't get it or feel silly or stupid and say, oh, I couldn't solve this small little thing on my own. But instead of thinking in that way, failure can be a chance to learn something new. If you talk to people about the problem that you have, you may learn of a better way to solve the problem. You may learn of a different way that you didn't think would be a way to solve the problem. And all of this absolutely relies on having psychological safety on your team. The way that this game presents these conversations to us and how we deal with failure should be the way how our team deals with us and these mistakes. If we are free to ask our coworkers or anybody else on our team questions or to explain to them that we've had a problem and we'd like to hear their thoughts on it, that's something that you should not discount, because a lot of teams don't have that. A lot of teams are afraid to talk to their coworkers. It's more like a competition. It's more like, if I don't show that I'm doing this work, then I might be next on the chopping block. And that's the total opposite of what psychological safety means. So psychological safety enables your team to have conversations like this, to find and to collaborate and find other solutions that you may not have otherwise found yourself. Similarly, when you collaborate with more people, you'll get to find some answers. When I'm talking to Fauna here, she says you should get some medicine for that to start treating the swelling. And be careful shaking trees, okay? So a way to collaborate is also a way for other team members to feel some empathy for you. You may feel like you're all alone and you need to deal with that failure by yourself. But again, if you have a team that has stable psychological safety built in, if you actually care about helping each other grow and excel in your careers, you're going to have someone, maybe a really, really good mentor or a really good senior that says, I've seen that before, you should see how many times I've done that, and really not only show you, hey, you're so little, why did you make this mistake, but comfort you, tell you that it's normal, tell you that it's okay that you made this mistake, and maybe even come up with additional guardrails to make sure it doesn't happen again, or to write some documentation that says, hey, the next time that this happens, here, you can help yourself. This is the way that we solve this kind of problem. So failure is a really, really great chance to collaborate with others on your team. As a last example of how failure is really a way to collaborate with your team, when talking to Nate here, we get that empathy, which is great. It says, your face looks like it hurts. Yeah, don't pick fights with wasps. Wasps are nice, but they'll fight. In this case, Nate actually gave me the solution. No worries though, here, it'll heal right away with this medicine. So not only did I get that empathy from my teammate, I got the solution. He gave me this little packet of medicine, which is used to heal wasp stings. And that is another reason why failure can be a catalyst to collaboration. When you reach out, not just on your team, but on other teams or other departments, again, they may have a solution for you that you may not otherwise have found. But you won't know that unless you reach out, unless you start talking to other people. And it's not like you have to broadcast every single mistake that you've made and say, hey, everybody fix this for me. It's when you've done your due diligence and you feel stuck and you feel like you've made a mistake, it should feel okay and be natural to want to reach out to someone if you need that additional help. And the last part I'll add here is, so they give me some advice that says, I always try to carry medicine with me, and also because it tastes like blue. I'm not sure what that means. Does anyone know what blue tastes like? That's what I'm assuming. So in the same way, they can give you additional advice so it doesn't happen again, or so you feel more prepared the next time you do make some similar mistake. And with that, we get the medicine, right? We were able to collaborate with our team members. We feel safe making these mistakes. We feel safe asking questions when we do have questions. And it's imperative that the team continues to foster this. Because if you have the total opposite, this is probably one of the biggest factors of why people leave teams. They don't feel safe, they don't feel welcome on their own team, they feel in competition with their team, or they feel left out and unsupported. And so when you don't have all of these things, everything else really doesn't matter. You could be the best developer in the world, but if you're not able to feel like you can ask your colleagues a question or point out something in a code review that is justified, which is separate from being snarky in code review comments. I have another talk about that. If you can't foster these kinds of conversations and be with your team and work with them in this fashion, I guarantee you it's going to cause some of your other team members to leave or yourself to leave. Failure is also a really, really great learning opportunity. How many of you have only learned how to fix something once you had an error in your console or you had those squiggly red lines? Yep. Sometimes you don't know what it is you don't know until you find a mistake in your code. Sometimes you need to run it and have something wrong or something clearly not right go for you to go down the rabbit hole of figuring out why it's wrong. So failure, if you look at it as a learning opportunity, yes, in the moment, you'll feel a little silly. You'll feel like you should know this. Sometimes you have bugs that'll take forever. It'll take a week to solve, 2 weeks. Keep looking at it. You feel like you've tried everything. You feel like you've Googled the entire search index and haven't found a solution. But sometimes you won't even get that additional educational opportunity unless you've made that initial mistake. And in that, we should find really, really great happiness in that, because that in turn makes us a better developer if we don't go down these edge cases and learn a little bit deeper about what's happening in our code. As an example of this, when you do get stung, you see that the swarm of wasps kind of attack you, and they drop that wasp nest. And at the time, as again, I was a new Animal Crossing player, I just looked at it. I didn't know that you could do anything with it. I just looked at it. I saw that you could pick it up, so I picked it up. And from what I learned, with that wasp nest, you can actually craft your own medicine. So without having gone through this kind of scary endeavor of failing, of getting a wasp sting, I would have never gotten this piece of the puzzle for crafting my own medicine. So instead of talking, which is still a great thing to do and to collaborate with your team members, you can actually be self-sufficient and solve the problem yourself. And I would have never known that the wasp nest was a key piece to crafting medicine if I had never gotten stung. Another thing, when you don't have wasp nests in your inventory, or you just happen to miss it, you also find that in the store there called Nick's Cranny, when you actually look through some of the back cabinets, you can actually buy medicine. So again, out of necessity, because I ran into an issue where I got stung and I did not have wasp nests on hand, or I didn't have weeds, one of the other materials you need to craft medicine. Because I didn't need it and because I really wanted to fix my eye, I decided to go look. And because I decided to go look, I found that there's another solution. You can buy the medicine. The last thing that I learned was that when you are going and shaking trees, I didn't know this, but you can actually catch the darn wasp. You don't even have to get stung in the first place. So all of this would have only ever been learned because I got stung in the first place, because I had that first failure happen to me that gave me the opportunity to learn 3 different ways of how to deal with it in the future in the game. I can get the medicine from somebody, I can make it myself, I can buy it if I have the bells, which is the currency in the game, or just be really, really quick about it. And this is when you've seen this problem many times. This is when you see senior devs seemingly solve a bug in 5 minutes. It's because they've encountered this problem before. They've seen this mistake before. They know what to do. And just like here, I'm very ninja and just swiping that or snatching that wasp, I don't even have to get stung. So failure is a really, really, really great learning opportunity. Finally, the last thing we need to think of when we think about failure is that it just needs to be accepted. How many of you work on a team where failure is absolutely not accepted? It's awful, right? You constantly feel pressure to not only perform at your job, which you have to do, right? You still got to work. But you have this additional pressure that you don't need on yourself, especially as you're traversing through your career and especially in development where things are changing so fast. You have so many things to learn. There are many, many opportunities to make mistakes. That's one additional thing you don't really need on your team. So if there's one thing, it seems like most people are on a team where failure has learned to be accepted. Werner Vogel of AWS has said, failure is constant, I'm paraphrasing, or failure is always going to happen. We know failure is going to be probably one of the only constants in the tech world. And so having that mindset, instead of trying to avoid it at all costs, knowing that it's going to happen, that can help shape the way that we think about it. And I think the best example of this is how Animal Crossing does it. At this point, I've already been stung. And because I was greedy and needed more materials, I continued shaking trees. I got stung a second time. And what's the worst thing that could happen? I don't lose any of my inventory. I don't have to pay a fee like in Borderlands to get revived or recreated. I just get sent back home. That's it. And that is probably the happiest outcome that could have happened for me in this game. And that's what psychological safety, I think, is the best example of that. The way that you deal with failure in this game, the worst thing, air quotes, that can happen is that you have a really janky looking eye and you get sent back home. You don't lose any of your progress. It's not too challenging that you don't want to go back and play. You actually still want to go and continue to build your island or continue to get better and explore other places. And in the same fashion, enabling psychological safety on your team gives you these kinds of guardrails. Doing that allows you to feel safe on your team, but it also allows you to work at your best productivity because you will be faster by asking questions instead of trying to figure things out on your own. You'll probably install mechanisms to make sure failures are not so terrible, which means having automated build pipelines with running tests, having integrations tests automatically run, having code reviews so that you can have an opportunity to spot when problems are happening and catch them before they become a problem. All of these things stem from having that foundation in your team that, hey, it's okay to fail, and even if you do fail, it's not so bad because we have all of these things in place to make sure it's okay for you to do so. And with that, I'd like to thank you for listening to me. In Animal Crossing, you earn achievements for doing random things. And I would like to give you an achievement I call embracing the wasp sting. So for listening to me, I hope that you know that it's valid to feel fear of failure, but you don't always have to. If you take a look at it in a different light from the ways that we've explored today and listening to my talk, I hope that you can take this back with you, either personally in your career or even be the champion for it on your team, and you get to benefit from all of the things that psychological safety awards your team. And with that, I would like to say salamat, MagnoliaJS, everyone here. That means thank you in Tagalog. Again, I am Adrienne Braganza Tacke. That is my Twitter handle. If you love this, please tweet it. That does great things for me at my job. And what I think personally is the most unique piece of swag, if you do play Animal Crossing, I actually made some Cisco t-shirts and a cap for your character. So that took a lot of time, okay? So if you do want any of these, come see me. I can give you the little creator code if you want to wear some Cisco swag on your Animal Crossing character. So thank you so much.